Well, hello there and welcome back to my channel. I hope you're well and having a beautiful day, doing whatever makes you happy in your happy space. Well, you're wondering, well, where is she? I am in one of the spare bedrooms upstairs, and I realized early this morning I was looking at my YouTube channel and I recalled that I had not shared with you how many quilts I made for 2023. So today I am going to do that because sometimes I don't know how many quilts I actually have. In fact, I don't know how many quilts I have. I just know them by name visually. That's really all I know. And sometimes I have to remeasure them when I put them up for sale. I have to remeasure them just so that I know what the sizes they come up. But I know what they are visually. But as I said, as to how much, no clue. Anyway, watching my lips there. Anyway, it's very red. Jackson's been a poo head. What do you want? I'm busy. I've given you my time already. Stop it. You can go downstairs, you can go in the garden and play. No, not today, right now. Sorry, I'm busy. You've had your moment. Go play with the birds. Alright, so we're going to ignore him. Hopefully he calms down. So I'm going to share with you today how many quilts I actually made for 2023. So you're going to have your own private crafty quilting quilt show. That's it. So we're going to get started immediately. Jackson, stop. Right, so the first one. Do I need to put you out? Huh? Okay. So the first one I'm going to share with you is the one on the wall here. So this is the Waves quilt, and I made this in 2023. And it is just so lovely, beautiful. One of the things I love about this quilt is actually seeing the movement of the waves, and I just think it's so beautiful. Don't remember what size it actually measures at, but all of the colors work together collectively to actually make this so lovely, so lovely. I'm going to go in closer so you can see the quilting lines. There may be a little bit of a shadow because of how the room is built, but that's the quilting lines there on the white border. I did literally wavy lines, and I know I've spoken about wavy lines so many times, but sometimes it suits a particular pattern. Okay, but this is a beautiful quilt. Do I have favorites? Yes, I do. Some of them are really lovely, and in fact all of them are really lovely, but some of them, once you play off with the pattern, it kind of surprises you as to how much it shows up really beautifully. But I just love the flow of the quilt design, and look how the colors play together. All those blue tones, it just looks like a river flowing with it, but just the sunset or the shine of the light of the sun. Okay, what do you want? Huh? I can't get anything done. What do you want, Jackson? What is it? No, you're not saying anything. All right, guys. So this is the Waves quilt. Very beautiful. Let me know what you think, and let me know what is your favorite once I have completed. Okay, let me take this dog outside because he wants something. Okay, so this is the book method scrap quilt, and the book method is simply taking two pieces of fabric and sewing together to form a seam line in the middle, like this particular block here. So this is the block. You see the seam line there where it joins, and I just layered all of them together to create this book technique. It was just so simplistic, and I can see why this video got so many views and why people loved it, because it was really simplistic. It didn't matter whether I had triangles in them. Again, the same concept applied. I took two pieces, seam it together, and it was open as a book and then stitched together. But this was really lovely. I used swirls for the quilting, and it came out really, really beautifully. And I said this was scrap, and I think I called it a free quilt. No, this wasn't a free quilt one, but this was amazing. Again, don't remember the size, but I used a book technique, and I would say definitely if you want to make a quilt as simple as this, just using strips, irregardless of whether it have, you know, triangular pieces, doesn't really matter. Just use them as a book. I even used 2 pieces of block there and cut the block in half. But it looks really beautiful. On the back, what I loved what I did, I just used a plain fabric, and I think this looks so nice. You can see all of the quilting. Sometimes we need to tell ourselves we need to use a pattern fabric at the back, but a plain fabric is just as beautiful, and you can see all of your quilting. By the end of the day, I mean, you went all that through that trouble, you might as well show off the quilting. But this is the book technique Scrappy Quilt. Just really gorgeous. Beautiful vibrant colors that come together so beautifully. Lots of tones of reds and blues, and just subtle tones of creams and yellows. Very, very lovely. All right, let's move on to number 3. This is one of my favorite scrap quilts. I actually use this particular quilt as an example of how to use Temu's fabrics, and I think it's so beautiful. I just love the colors. Again, this wasn't planned, it was just something that came up into my mind on the spot, and all I did was to take 3 of their fat quarters, cut them into strips, and just add on squares, and I continued that throughout. Such a beautiful quilt. It really is one of my favorites. Really is. And I just love the way I completed it with this beautiful floral border. One thing about me is that I reuse my fabrics quite a lot. So if I saw something that worked in one quilt, then I would definitely use it as a scrappy piece, or as a border, or as a backing, or as a binding in another quilt. The meandering, I did it quite large all over. And one of the things that I love when you do a meandering or your quilting stitch really large, what happens is that it makes the quilt very flowy, very soft. There is no stiffness, and I love it. This fabric here is one of my favorites. I think I used this because of that one there. I sort of wanted to gel them together. There's a different color of it here as well, but such a beautiful quilt. As I said, these were Temu's fabrics that I used here, and this is when I did a lot of promotion for Temu, but I always use the fabrics as they are. Sometimes I will trim them down, but most of them I did. Some of the fabrics here were mine, so for example, that was mine, of course the border was mine. What else was mine before? This one here, this one here. I think that was it really, because some of them are repeated. That was mine, but the majority was Temu, and I just thought it is such a beautiful quilt. On the back, of course, this is the fabric I got from my fabric store. It's just this beautiful small floral print all over, but such a lovely, beautiful quilt. This one also got lots of views. Don't remember the amount, but I absolutely love it. Such a beautiful quilt. Very lovely, and the meandering lines just works so nicely. So this is my quilt number 3 of 2023. Again, tell me down below which is your favorite once we've completed. But beautiful colors, absolutely gorgeous colors. This reminds me of a baby quilt. I could be wrong, but I think it's nice as a baby quilt, just so soft and flowy, and the colors could be for any boy or girl, but absolutely gorgeous. I love the blue tones, that you can see all around it. It's very subtle, not too dominant, you know, but everything just works together. Really, really lovely. All right, so let's move on now to the next one. All right, so this one is the Courtyard Quilt, and oh my god, what a beautiful little quilt. This quilt, I made it, I think it's in 21, but I did not complete it until 2023. Is that correct? No, to the lie, 2022, but did not complete it till 2023. That's why it falls into the 2023 category. But I just wanted to show you how much quilting I did on this quilt. It just goes to show that when you make a small quilt that is just basic, okay, now this is a very simplistic quilt, and again it's a scrappy one, okay, but the quilting brings it alive. Such a beautiful, and I call it Courtyard. Let's talk about the border for a minute. Look at what I did for the border. I don't want to get your eyes confused with the last one. The border here is just squares that I sewed together with a small sashing in there. It just looks really awesome. Really, really, really awesome. Okay, and I love the pattern. And the reason why I call it a courtyard, because you know when you're outside in the garden, you do tend to find those sort of square pebbles, then there is a gap, then a square pebble, then a gap. And that's what the idea came from to me. It looks like courtyard, you know, in your garden. But let's look at the quilting. Just so beautiful. I spent a lot of time on this, and I quilted this, I think, with my my sewing machine, the one I currently quilt on, my Quilter's Choice. I think I call this my Quilter's Choice. But just so beautiful, just so beautiful. Look at this particular white block here. Look at all that quilting. What possessed me to do that? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what possessed me. Love this feather one here. Overall, very, very lovely, guys. Very, very lovely. Very, 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 very lovely. So gorgeous. Lots of quilting in the sashings here. Look at it. Just so amazing. What possessed me to do all this quilting? I don't know. I was having a moment. I was thoroughly enjoying myself with this one. Look at it. I mean, every inch of this quilt is covered in quilting, but it's just lovely still and light. On the back, it was a doggy print. And I remember this was the first fabric I bought when I came to Australia. I didn't use it until 2023. Yeah, as quilters, we like to keep things, don't we? Again, this is another one that'll go really lovely as a nice baby quilt. Very beautiful. Very, very beautiful. Loving this courtyard. Again, this is another quilt that will be ideal for a beautiful large bed quilt. So beautiful, so simplistic, and again made from scraps. I mean, how else can you not go wrong with something like this? Just even some batiks even got in there. Amazing, amazing. All right, so let's move on to number 4. This is a beautiful one. This is another favorite of mine. Look how tiny these wishbones are. I mean, I still don't know what possessed me to do all of this quilting, but I did it. I certainly did it. All right, let's move on to the next one. All right, this one is my Scrappy Pumpkin Quilt. This one was an applique, so it looks amazing. I haven't looked at this quilt in such a long time. Beautiful quilt. Don't know what size this is. Again, I remember I said I don't remember what the size is, but this is a Scrappy Pumpkin Seeds quilt, and it looks absolutely gorgeous. This is another one that is made of scraps, as I said, and it was made in 2023. Lots of quilting on this one also. Let's look at it. This was an applique, very easy to make, very simplistic. I think there is a pattern for this one, or the template I should say, because the normal pumpkin seed template doesn't come as this one. I actually had this one made for myself, but I love it, love it, love it, love it. Another favorite of mine for a scrappy quilt, but just so amazing. On the edges I literally just glued it down and I just stitched around it with my quilting feet. I didn't stitch around it individually, so I glued them on and I just did all the stitching immediately. This was lovely and easy to make. This wasn't difficult at all. This was really enjoyable to make. It took a step out from doing the piecing, but it was beautiful. So there was no piecing. Until I lie, I did do some corners there, but that was it. It was very easy to put together. This would look beautiful as a lovely big bed quilt. Very gorgeous, very, very gorgeous. Excellent. Love that one there. Look at the quilting in there. The quilting really makes it sometimes, doesn't it? Sometimes with certain blocks, it deserves a type of quilting it has been given. And then with certain blocks, it's all about the formation of how the blocks form, the layout. But this is gorgeous. Some of these scraps I had a very long time. They came from England with me. Like this one here. This one here came from England with me. This came from England with me. This one, a lot of them, they came from England. I actually brought scraps to Australia. Can you imagine that, guys? Didn't want to leave any of them. This one, certainly I remember that one quite clearly. Yep. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful quilt. Beautiful quilt. It's just so lovely. Love the quilting. I think I need to enter some of these quilts into competition because they are just sitting there. I only share them with you guys or when somebody wants to see it for buying, but that's the only time they come out of hiding. On the back, I use a fake piece fabric, and I use a pink quilting glossy thread on this one, so you can see all of the quilting behind it. Amazingly beautiful, absolutely gorgeous. Let's try another side and see the back. Just so lovely, really beautiful. A lot of work went into making this quilt, a lot of work, but at the same time it was fun. One thing I do like about my quilting is that I am not obsessed about making sure it's perfect. For me, if I have a wonky line somewhere, to me that adds to the beauty, because my quilts are literally hand quilted. I don't focus on it being perfect, because to me that is not what quilting is about. So if something's a little bit shaky, I go with it. Like for example this here, you can see it where the line there is not straight, but that doesn't bother me. Again, here it doesn't bother me at all. I don't let those small imperfections, you know, change my mind about my quilt. I don't look at it as a negative. I see it as a positive, because it's part of me. It is part of my quilting, and you know, that's the authentic side of your personal quilting. You don't have to feel that it has to be perfect. It is not a machine. You're not a machine. It's your hand that governs the stitches. You know what I mean? So you're not pressing a button and the machine's doing it for you. You're working with the machine. So, you know, fall in love with your quilting as it is, and get to know yourself and your quilting much better. All right, guys. So this is number 5. So I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes. So let's move on to number 6. Beautiful. Another favorite. Absolutely gorgeous. Really, really lovely. Again, don't forget to tell me your favorite down below. All right. So this one is Scrap Diamond. So I use scrap yet again to make this one. Yeah, these were, when I say scraps, these ones were sort of left over fat quarters. I call them scraps, but they were left over one or two scrap fat quarters that I used to make these diamonds. But I would consider them as scrappy quilts because it was just one or two or three or four that I sort of used to make the quilt and cut up the fabrics. This one was a simplistic one yet again, and it was literally made with just this here. So that's this half square, I wouldn't say triangle, but a rectangle. That's what I did. So it was cut in the, you know, it was cut and then sewn together back to make that stitched again, and then make the whole block there using the same fabric to make that opposite, sort of a kite. That's what I relate it to. But overall you see different diamond shapes. You know, you can see this trail of diamond cuts going all the way up there, as well as coming back down on this side there. But this one again was just something I did on a whim. The quilting patterns on this one was big as well, so just meandering. But this is not really a favorite of mine. It was just an opportunity to use up some scrap fabrics and to get a simplistic quilting pattern out of it. I use a blue border just to highlight those blue tones and to just keep it, you know, sort of cohesive. Let's see what I put on the back. All right, so on the back I just used some leftover fabric again. I remember this one, and this one I think is going to be in the other quilt that I showed you, the quilt I am going to show you, sorry. And this is a piece backing, this one here, a fake piece backing I should say, or a fake piece quilting. But yeah, again, this one I bought, this fabric I bought when I just arrived in Australia and only used it in 2023. All right, so let's move on to the next one. Okay, so this is my other scrappy diamond quilt. This is one of my favorite beautiful little quilt. This quilt got quite a number of views actually, and I made this when we were traveling on the caravan. However, I did not complete it till 2023. Such a beautiful little quilt, so lovely. What I loved about this quilt again is scraps, because I'm showing you all the scrappy ones first. Okay, and I actually did the border scraps as well. Loved it. It just used up every single scrap that I had at the time. But I just love how simple it is. I didn't use any special rulers for this one. I used just my normal quilting ruler to make this. But I did so much quilting yet again on this particular beautiful little quilt. But I absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. I quilted this on my very small sewing machine that I used in the caravan. I'll put a picture up of the sewing machine that I used, very small black one that I bought actually when we were traveling. But it did a good job. It did a good job, you know. I mean, it was fine. I didn't suffer using that small quilting machine. But then again, it shows that, you know, you can quilt on anything as long as you got the confidence to do it. You can certainly, you know, quilt on anything as long as you know, build your confidence up and don't be scrutinizing anything, you know. But it was all right. I thoroughly enjoyed it. One of the things I loved about this quilt is the backing. Look at that pieced backing. You know, and when I say piece backing, sorry, I bought it as this. It was a fake piecing fabric, but it was just so lovely. Let's turn it over and look at it properly. Just so beautiful. I just loved it. You know, just really lovely, beautiful, and you can use it on either side. This will make a beautiful baby quilt, definitely. You know, if it's a boy, you use this side. If it's a girl, you use this side. I mean, how much more options do you want? I should have sent this one for my niece. But this is amazingly beautiful. Love this. One of my favorites as well. I do have some favorites when it comes to the Scrappy Quilt, and this is definitely on the favorite list. The borders, amazing. I will link all the videos down below on how to make these quilts, or the whole collection of 2023 quilts, so that you can go and have a look and how to make them. But they're absolutely gorgeous, beautiful quilts. All right, so let's move on to the next one. All right, so this one is called Charming Nines, and I use charms and I made them into 9 patches and frame it. Beautiful quilt. It's a favorite of mine. Actually, this is the quilt I'm using for the front of my quilting book that I'm actually writing. Love it, love it, love it. It looks so beautiful. From the time I made it, I fell in love with this quilt. This one will be a, you know, some of the quilts you make, you get attached to them for whatever reason. I don't know. This one is just, it's a simple quilt, but to me, it's just so outstanding. I absolutely love it. Again, lots of quilting on this one. I did lots of dot to dot for all of the charms, but in the black, I just did the wishbones, and on the border, I did swirls. I think it was a 5 or 6 inch border that I used, and finished off with black binding. But just so beautiful, beautiful quilt. Don't remember what's on the back. Oh my god, yes, this beautiful floral fabric is just so gorgeous. Yeah, I mean, amazing, guys, amazing. So this is what, 6 or 7? I think I'll put the numbers on the screen, that way I can keep track. But just so beautiful, guys. Simple quilt, as I said. You know, sometimes when it's simple, it makes sense. You know what I mean? It's like one of the quilts I did recently. It was just, you know, a layer cake, 10-inch squares, but it was such a beautiful quilt. You couldn't argue with that. Beautiful, this one. Love how I used the black. Even though it's a dominant, strong color, it played very nicely with all of the tones of colors in the quilt. So one of the things I say is that, you know, when you are learning to quilt, it's good to have scrap fabrics in a quilt, because it can show you, you know, your own personal color wheel and how you choose colors and what actually works. So that's why I always say, you know, make a scrap fabric, get it as scrappy as possible, and you can see when you stand back what actually works for you. All right, guys, so let's move on to the next one. All right, so this one is number 9. This is a table runner. Oh, I should say a table quilt. That's it. It's a table quilt. This was very beautiful. Is very beautiful. I love the colors. It was a collection of batiks that I used for this one. A lot of it was mixed in with batiks. It was a normal and batiks, but you know, even the borders was batiks, as well as the binding. Beautiful quilt. Love the dot to dot. It was one of those ones that was kind of surprising to make, if you know what I mean. That you wasn't sure how it was going to turn out, but it was on point. Very lovely quilt. Love the quilting yet again. I did dot to dot, you know, in all of the squares, which sort of gives you an overall sort of quilting technique there, but when you look at it as a whole, you get this sort of circle in the middle there with all of them. And this was all free motion. This was not, you know, the machine doing this. This was me. This was definitely me, you know. But beautiful, beautiful. Love it. What's on the back? Oh, just an ordinary print. And again, this fabric came from the United Kingdom. Look at it, guys. You can see all of the quilting, and that's why sometimes I like using just a sort of a plainish background where you can see the quilting outstanding, because I think in that sense you can use both sides as well. Very beautiful, very beautiful. Lovely summery bright colors. Something like this will be beautiful tones that you can use for fall. You know, it's just got that nice tones that bring sort of, you know, that end of summer, that autumn beautiful sunset into your dining space. But absolutely gorgeous. Really, really gorgeous. Again, I will link the video so that you can make this. All right, so let's move on to number 10. All right, so this is my Japanese lantern quilt. This one is beautiful, guys. The fabrics were Japanese fabrics that I used to make this, and it's just amazing. Absolutely. This was a real pleasure making this quilt. It came about so beautifully, so simplistic. I remember actually asking you guys about different layouts and stuff. I did use some of these sort of boutiques fabrics in there as well. Yeah, so this one was really beautiful and simplistic to make. It did take some time to get together, but once I sorted out how I wanted the layout to go, it was fine. Quilting again on this one was large. I did meandering on the grey border, up and down lines here, and meandering all over as well. On the back, I think it was just an ordinary blue fabric here. My memory serves me correct. But yeah, this was enjoyable to make. It's a beautiful quilt. Very, very beautiful quilt. Love the colors. The Japanese prints did play off really nicely on this one. And I love the fact that I added the cornerstones as well in there. But great, great, great quilt. Pleased with this one. Alright, so this one was a layer cake. Beautiful colors all together. Just cut and twist horizontally and vertically. Very lovely, this one. I love this one. This is really nice. Really, really nice fabrics. Beautiful soft quilt, I may add. I did meandering, big meandering lines to this one. Can't really see it because of the quilting, but this was a nice one. Definitely, I enjoyed making this one. Okay, let's see what's on the back. Love the binding as well. The binding, ordinary blue fabric, with the binding just beautiful and bright. Lovely. Again, you can see the quilting on the back here, but again, just really big meandering stitch lines. And again, sometimes you just need to get it quilted, isn't it? So when I do it big, when I quilt large, is because I just want to get it done and get it out the way and move on to the next one. Because sometimes I get a bit bored, I'll be honest. Like, if I'm spending too long of a time on one quilt, I do get a bit bored. But I loved the layout of this. This was nice. The layout, playing around with the layout was beautiful in this one. All right, so let's move on to the next. Okay, so this is the Roses and Humble quilt, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I named this quilt after the fabrics. Very beautiful, big squares. You can finish this quilt very quickly. I did 3 borders. So I did a smaller border here. I did this other border as well, and a normal final border. Okay, this was really nice to make, actually, just cutting the strips on the slant. I kept the tones really similar, so blue tones, different shades of blue, as well as some bright florals in there dotted around, as well as and on the borders, if you notice on this side here, it's one same color for the border, but here I interchanged the colors all the way around on this side and on this side here. You can see that. Overall, a very beautiful quilt. For the quilting, I did sort of a water effect backward and forwards just to achieve that. I felt that looked really good. I love that quilting. It was something different I hadn't done for a while, and I wanted to try something new. So that's what I did. On the back, I used cord for this. Jackson's playing up again. Can you stop it? On the back, I use cord, which is a very soft fabric, and I use a black thread for the quilt. You can see a little bit of it, but overall a very beautiful quilt. I really enjoyed making this one. It's one of these quilts that you can get done super fast, because really you're playing with the big squares there, and then you're just adding strips. But if you'd like to make this would be beautiful as a ready large bed quilt, using beautiful vintage tones to show up in the squares, but a beautiful quilt all over. If you notice, I did sort of a 4 patch with the darker blues there. I want to say a 4 patch, but a 5, so you can see that movement there with it, the squares. So I have the darks and the floral in the middle there. So I like that. It just looked really nice. But this will make a beautiful big bed quilt, guys. Really lovely. Really, really lovely. Very nice. I love the introduction of the different borders. I thought that was pretty cool. I also love this fabric here. This was a sparkle fabric. Really nice as well, because you may not be able to pick it up, but there's sparkles on the grey as you go in closer. Beautiful quilt. Simplistic, you know, but yet nice. Sometimes I like making really nice simple quilts because they just, you know, show the beauty of the fabric. All right, so let's move on to the next one. All right, so this quilt is called Flowing Rivers, and I use Aboriginal fabrics for this one. I called it Flowing Rivers because of the blue there, as well as this one, which accumulated into a puddle down there. So that's how I view this quilt. This is a beautiful quilt. It was interesting because the fabrics for Aboriginals are always interesting, isn't it? They're not the norm. They're very patterned. They're very designed in the way that they tell stories. So this was an interesting one to make for me. And I felt it sort of varied in its idea of how to transition the quilt into telling a story. But a lot of it is about dream time and, you know, hunting for food and keeping the family together in the Aboriginal culture and passing on their traits of how to live in their culture. But this was interesting to make. The fabrics are always beautiful for Aboriginal prints, and they're very intriguing. I use a white border to sort of pull it all together, and I use just feathers quilting all the way around. This was nice to quilt, to be honest. I love seeing the quilting on lighter fabrics because it always shows off so beautifully. Again, I picked up this, can't remember the name of this red fabric here, but I think it was representative of fishing and catching fishes, hence the reason why I called it Flowing River, in reference to the blue catching the fish. And I sort of envisioned this side as, you know, the river bank, etc., because it was brown. But going back to the fabric, I added that as a final border and went back into the blue to frame the whole thing. But this was a beautiful quilt to make. I see this piece as a wall hanging, not so much as a bed quilt, because I think it tells a story. And that's just the way it is, to be honest. A lot of their prints are storytelling. I use a wave, a freehand wave movement for this one. And how I did it is that I put the squares together, and they'll tell you that in the description in the video anyway, but how I actually made it together. But it was lovely. It was enjoyable to see what came about with that movement of the curves. Very lovely. Alright guys, so let's move on to the new, so before I go, just a normal floral print at the back, nothing special. Alright, let's move on. Alright, so this quilt is the 4-patch Kaleidoscope quilt. This was an interesting one to make, and the fabrics was cut in a certain way whereby it revealed the kaleidoscope in 4 patches. You got to watch the video to see how to make it. But this was lovely. I enjoyed making this quilt. I finished it with swirls of quilting, which is really big and nice, but it came about really well. I enjoyed making this one. This was a nice one to make. I'm not sure about the colors. I think the colors are very strong, but then again, when it came to Kaleidoscope, you do need a lot of patterns, isn't it? Because that is what revealed when you cut it to reveal the kaleidoscope. But if you can't see them, let me focus on it here. So these are 4 patches, but cut, or I should say blocks cut into squares to make a kaleidoscope. That is what I should say, so that it's easier to comprehend. You can see the flowers going around in circle in this one. You can see that right there and then the end. This one, same thing. You can see in the middle and going around. This one, you can see that there again. And because it was cut in 4 patches, you can see each of the cut gave you a different kaleidoscope. Intriguing, isn't it? I was very intrigued to do this because normally kaleidoscope is not cut like this. But it worked. It really worked. But as I said, I would link all the videos so you can see how I made them. On the corner, sorry for the borders, I did a cream fabric and I did that quilting there. Alright, and but what I really liked though is that I cut the fabric in a way that I can see all of the roses going all the way down, so that it looked, the transition of the roses was all the way through, and it wasn't, you know, on left, right. It was just nice and centered in the border. I enjoyed doing that because I purposely made a thought to cut it properly. Even on this end here, as you can see. Love the roses fabric. Very nice. I enjoyed making this. On the back, this was a quilt as you go. I just used an all over pattern of butterflies. Finished it with that cream fabric yet again. But beautiful. Thoroughly enjoyed making this one. The kaleidoscopes were very different in each of them. All of the cuts was so different. And that was enjoyable to do, actually. It really was. I would encourage you to try something like this. You know, find some fabrics that has lots of movement, and therefore once you cut it in the way that the video explains, you can then reveal your own kaleidoscopes. And remember, you don't have to make them the sizes. Okay guys, so let's move on to the next one. I must say though, I do like the arc quilting on the edge. That's a really nice quilting method to do because it allows you, even if you make a mistake, it doesn't really matter because you're double dipping, you're mixing them up, you're crossing over. So there you go. All right, let's move on to the next one. All right, so this is a jelly roll ladders quilt. This one, I loved it. Beautiful quilt, very vibrant in color, very bright, lots of reds, subtle tones of blue and purple, but lots of reds, good variety of pink, but looks really lovely. It's called the Ladders Quilt, and again, this tutorial is on YouTube. I can't say much about it. It was interesting to make because of how the patterns are formed. That was, you know, this one I don't know. Sometimes I try things out to see how they will work. This is the first time I'm actually opening this quilt since I made it. I haven't looked at it. Many times once I made the quilt, guys, I fold it, I list it on Etsy, or I put it on my Shopify store, and that's literally the last time I see it. I don't necessarily go back to them. Because the ones that I keep for myself, I keep them in the linen cupboard because then it's part of the home, innit? So the others that's not kept for home, I put them in another room on the shelf. So they're all on the shelf. I don't store them in a bag. You just store it openly, folded on a shelf. You know, they're not in direct sunlight, so they don't change or anything like that. But once I make them, I just simply put them away, especially if they are for sale. So I don't necessarily look at them again. And sometimes if someone orders, in fact many times, I have to go searching to find it and go through, or because I have to go look at the quilt and say, oh, okay, I remember this one that is, and then go find it. You know, but as I said, the ones that I made for myself, they're kept separately. But I use a lot of swirls. I did the wishbones in the borders. I love doing that because I think it really brings the borders together. And you can see in these ones here, they're really small, so they're nice and close together. Sometimes I got a little bit wide. And in all honesty, you will not notice this, because at the end of the day, you know, you're not looking at the quilt to see mistakes. And then when you look at it from a distance, all you see is the wishbones, don't you? You don't necessarily see the fact that this side is slightly wider. And this side here is closer together for the wishbones. On the back, a beautiful floral print. Love this. Love, love, love this. Really nice. Really nice and summery. And again, went back in to finish it with a yellow binding. But absolutely lovely. This is what Jackson does when he wants to play. You heard me call his name. See that? That's when he wants me to pick him up. That's what he does. But yeah, there he goes again. This dog's crazy. Anyway, but yeah, this is the Jelly Roll Ladder Quilt. All right, let's move on to the next one. All right, so this quilt is called Up Square, Down Square. This is a Jordan's fabric quilt. It's Jordan's fabric quilt because I was watching Jordan Fabric, and she came and she was demonstrating how to make this quilt, but she did not give the pattern away. She said you have to buy the pattern. Nevertheless, I thought, you know what, I can make this quilt. I was like, I'm sure I can make this quilt. So anyway, I worked out the pattern, and this is mine's. Mine's is made of scraps. Hers was made, I think, from Jelly Roll and yardage, I think, but or from yardage, I'm not sure, but this is my version of it. It's lovely. This one is a very large quilt. I think it's 73 by 91, so as you can see, it comes all the way down. I love the borders on this one. It's just so beautiful. I quilted it all over with feathers. This one was a joy to make, and it's on point as well. So this was lovely. Thoroughly enjoyed making this quilt. This quilt really demonstrates what scraps can do. I mean, beautiful scraps and a little bit of background fabric. White always helps when you are working with scraps. If you're ever unsure what fabric to use white. It always plays off. It's always a winner. It will never let you down. This is beautiful quilt. Absolutely gorgeous. I loved it, loved it. And I made it in her light, so I didn't really do anything differently. I think on the back, she even did a piece back in, and I did that also. It was a challenge for myself, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And if you notice, the squares are different. So you have this square and a square and a square. That's why it's called up square, down square. And then you have the down square here. So this is your up square, and this is your down square, because it's smaller and surrounded by the backing fabric. Hence the reason why you get so much of the white on it. But it was beautiful. Lovely, lovely to make. And I use a feather quilting pattern all over, even on the borders. And I love the way I use a purple border to really frame it round, because there are purple notes in the quilt itself, in the blocks. And then I finished it off with those blue beautiful tones as well. Love it, love it, love it. Very nice. And again, I went back and used another blue tone on the binding. So really beautiful. On the back, I did a floral piece. And I think I did do a piece back in, as I said, because I think, yes, I did. I was correct. So there is a piece backing. So literally, she did do a piece backing as well with the extras. And that's exactly what I made. So I literally made her quilt, not using her pattern, but I designed my own. And I think I shared it with you guys. But it's really beautiful. Really, really beautiful. Loved it. Nice quilt. Very large quilt. Beautiful bed size quilt. As I said, it comes all the way down. I'm literally on the other side of the bed here now. You can see. Very lovely. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful quilt. Let me know what you think about this one, guys. As I said, made from scraps. sometimes, you know, scraps can just really surprise you, doesn't it? Once you put your thinking cap on, you'll be like, wow. Wow. It's good to save them. All right, so let's move on to the next one. All right, so this quilt is a framing florals. It measures 72 by 76. I love this quilt. This quilt is a beautiful summery quilt, just so gorgeous. Ignore Jackson's grunting. And I just love the yellow tones. It's just so summery, bright, florals. This I think had over 8,000 views, which was really good. I thought it would have got more, but that was fine, you know, but it's just so gorgeous. I love the way that I actually used the blue tones at the end there. Can't remember what this fabric is called now. Too many fabrics to remember, but it was the blue, I think it was a sparkle fabric, and grunge. That was it. It's blue grunge, grey grunge together, blue, grey grunge, sparkle, and I did some diamond and point there for the borders, and I think I did that on all 4 of the borders there, as well as on this side as well. Very lovely quilt, very beautiful quilt. I thoroughly enjoyed this. This quilt is a quilt as you go. And in the back, I did a grey grunge, and you can see all of the quilting as usual. I remember I said to you, I love using a plain pattern at the back because you can see the quilting. I mean, I work hard on the quilting, so I want to show it off. You know, because at the end of the day, that's part of it, isn't it? Showing off the quilting, especially when it's done, you know, in a way that you want it to be. But I use meandering. It's only the borders that I did special quilting. I think I did some florals, I think, some flower shapes. Yes, I can see one there. Hopefully you can pick it up on the camera. On the floral prints themselves, yes, I can see them clearly now. There's another one there as well. But this was lovely to make. I love the way, I think I sold this as a quilt. Sorry, a kit, my apologies. I sold this as a kit. But I also didn't want to cut the fabrics up because it was so damn cute. Look at them, they're beautiful, you know. So especially these pinky ones there. This is absolutely gorgeous. But I love this. This is a beautiful bed quilt. Very nice. Very, very nice. Very nice. I think it's a queen size as well. So beautiful. And I love the blue, as I said. Comes together. Really beautiful. Brightens up your room. I think this one is actually on Etsy for sale. I mean, most of the quilts I've shown you, none of them I've kept for myself. They're all for sale. I still haven't listed all of them. Oh God, there's so many to do. But yeah, I sometimes when I remember, I start listing. Okay, Karen, just get them out there. But this is a beautiful one, guys. Really, really lovely. Really lovely. Beautiful quilt. Very nice. It is heavy. The bigger ones are a lot more heavier. And to be honest, guys, all those quilts are packed up in my bedroom. So when Carl comes home, he's got some folding to do. He folds it so much more quicker and nicer than I do. Because they get heavy. Quilts are heavy once they're combined together, you know, because there's so many layers, isn't it? But this is a beautiful one. All right, so let's move on to the rest. I don't even know what number I am at this point, but I will put them on the screen. All right, guys, so this quilt is called Crumbs. It measures 62 by 83, I think. It's beautiful, isn't it? Oh my gosh, this quilt was made as a quilt as you go. I'm confident, yes, because I can feel, I know the quilt as he goes. Obviously, I made them, I should know them. But I love the pattern. It's cut from a layer cake and it's called Cake Crumbs. Beautiful, 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 beautiful. I think I did a flower meander for the quilting. Yep, I can definitely see them coming through there. Love the pattern. Love the pattern. Love the tones of it as well. It's coming across a bit girly to me. You know, it's got some little pinks, some purples. And when I say girly, I don't mean in a negative way. I just mean it's a romantic element to the colours. Beautiful. You know, you fit it off with some white pillow shams and some nice beautiful pillows and covers, cushion covers. It'll finish it off nicely. I went back and I used this cord here at the border, and I think that really lifts it. It's a very large quilt. Very nice. Very, very nice. Love love the colors. Actually is what makes this quilt, I think. Love the pattern as well. I don't remember what the pattern, but no, as I said, it's called Cake Crumbs. But I think what I was trying to achieve was to get like a flower meandering shape with it when I did the cut. So you can see one there. Definitely you can see some of them I mixed the colors as well, you know, but it came out all right. I was pleasantly surprised with the layout and the cut of the fabrics as well. Beautiful. I loved it. I thoroughly enjoyed making this one, guys. What do you think of this layout? Tell me down below what do you think of it. It works really nicely, really nicely. And as I said, I made this as a quilt as you go, so you can see all of those sort of flower shapes that I was trying to achieve, and I did the flower meandering there. Some of them I got them as a whole with the pattern, like this pink one here. Some of them I got different concepts of the fabric used depending on the cut. That's another whole one there. This one here had different fabrics, so 3 of one, 1 of the other, again 1 of the other, 3 of the same. You know, this one here had each of the colors of the fabric, so really strikingly different. This one here you can see again each of the fabrics that's throughout the whole quilt up, but beautiful. Let's see what's on the back because I have no memory. Oh, on the border again I went back in with the wishbones. So let's see what's on the back. Oh, beautiful fabric. I remember buying this fabric. I was mesmerized when I saw this. I thought, what a beautiful fabric. Very lovely, and I think it's suiting for the back of it. Very nice. And yes, it is a quilt as you go because I can see the seam lines there. And I think when I made these videos, these were to demonstrate that you can make a large quilt using my quilt as you go method, and I demonstrated that here, and it was achieved really beautifully. In fact, again, since making this quilt I have not looked at it at all. Looking at them now, they're so beautiful, aren't they? I must admit I do feel really proud of myself when I look back at the quilts, because this is my work, this is what I do. So it's nice to see them, you know, in another sense a year later, you know, and how much they kept well, and you know nothing has gone wrong with them, and you know they're just as beautiful as the first day when I made them. So absolutely gorgeous. Quilting is brilliant yet again. Not dense, and I love doing it like that. Not dense, still close together, but still you get that flow movement within the quilt. You know, it's not heavy and you know sort of stiff. It just wraps around you, and for me that's what a quilt should be like. But overall, beautiful quilt. Very large quilt that sits on the bed and it comes all the way down. Okay, all right guys, so let's move on to the next one. We're coming close to the end. This one was another layer cake, but I used some ordinary fabric, some yardage was to do the cut on the square, or the rectangle I should say, and then added another one because I was aiming to get like a diamond cut there. But this was lovely again to make. Enjoyed making this one. It does look kind of scrappy somehow, but I guess it's the colors that I used. But as I said, I really wanted to get that soft tone there of the diamond on the side, you know. I think if I'd use a stronger color, probably like a red or a yellow, it probably would have showed up a little bit more. I mean, when you look at it through the camera lens, I think you can see it, but I think face to face, I could possibly be wrong. You'll take somebody else's opinion. But you let me know what you think, guys. Can you see that diamond cut on the slan there? But I think it looks lovely. Nice, beautiful tones. Worked really well. On the back, don't remember. Oh, yes. Sort of a beautiful sort of Japanese floral print as well on the back here. But beautiful quilt. I did swirls all over. Enjoyed quilting this one. Look, I missed a spot there. Can you see it? They always say when you miss a spot in quilting, you will definitely see the unquilted spot. But yeah, in the front you don't see it, do you? But beautiful. I cooled it down, the tones, with just adding this beautiful floral print of white here and the, but you know, it was good. It's good. I enjoyed making this one. I clearly remember making this one. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Alright, so this one is called Squaring Up. This one was only 6 very large squares, but there were lots of squares within the square, if that makes sense. But beautiful quilt, very simplistic. I think it was also a quilt as you go, I think it was, based on looking at the seams here that I can see. Quilting was very large on this one, as you can tell, and I used my quilter's choice for this one. But I did a sort of a feather swirl all over to get it done very quickly. On the back, I used a very beautiful vintage floral print, but I also did a self-binding, so whatever was left, I folded it over to create a binding, and that was easy enough, to be honest. Didn't have to worry about cutting any more fabric to make the binding. But very simplistic quilt to make. Lots of white on this one, definitely. It was really about showing up all of those beautiful little fabrics in the charms that you can see here. Very lovely, very simplistic, but good. I wouldn't say it's a favorite. It was a way of, I think I was experimenting with this one, but it was also a way of practicing my quilting on this one and see, you know, the movement of getting big swirls, because sometimes I do want to do big swirls of quilting, you know, rather than the small one. So this was a practice quilt in that sense, but it looks good. I'm happy with it. It's beautiful and soft, and it looks nice. It looks nice on the bed here. I would probably say this is a quilt that you would, you know, just sit in the middle of your bed or at the bottom of your bed. All right, guys, so let's move on to the next one. All right, this one was one of those bright quilts I made, and this I used, I think it was fat quarters, and I cut them into layer cakes, or was it already layer cakes? I can't remember, but this is it. I love the way I used a star on the side, because the star is offset. If you can see, it's not in the middle of the quilt. I don't remember how many views this one actually got, to be honest, but the layout, I kind of played around with it just to do something different. So that is what I did. I didn't let's just zoom out so you can see it better, where you can see it's literally offset, but it's lovely. I'm not sure who would ever buy this quilt, to be honest. It's a kind of out there quilt with the colors. I don't know what I was thinking, but what I loved about it though was the quilting. Definitely the quilting is beautiful. I think it was a flutter fabric that I used. Yeah, that's what the collection was called, Flutters. But very beautiful. Quilting was lovely. Enjoyed the quilting on this one. Very nice, very nice. On the star, you can see it very clearly, just a normal sawtooth star that I added there, but it was just really nice and offset with the colors. Let me know, tell me what you think about this offset star layer cake quilt, guys. I'd love to hear your feedback. What do you think about it? I know it's different, it's, you know, it's not the norm, but I like trying things differently to see, you know, to see how far I can stretch myself and also inspire you as well. Beautiful quilt, you know, just the 10-inch squares there together, but something a little bit fancy with the star on the side, you know, but it looks good. I did like it. I did, and as I said, I certainly enjoyed quilting this one. This was fun to make and something different. I think this was a quilt as you go as well, because I can tell from the seam line in the middle here. but very lovely, guys, very lovely. If you'd like to practice something like this with your quilting, as well as, you know, making a beautiful quilt really quickly, this is something really nice, because if you turn this part here to the bottom, this is going to be the bottom of the quilt, and this plain area here could be at the top of the quilt, you know, but just, sorry, top of the bed. But really nice to have that offset star, and it will make a big quilt. You can use all of your layer cakes to make something like this, and just use yardage to make the star. But beautiful, guys, beautiful. Love the colors. It's a bit out there, you know, but it's nice, really nice. Let me know what you think about this one. All right, so we're into the Christmas quilts now, and this quilt is called Dog Sleigh. This is made from a Christmas panel. I think I have one more left, I can't remember, but I love this quilt. I'll tell you no lie, guys, this quilt, when we lived in the other house, this quilt stayed on my wall. As you walked through the front door and you saw the entry, you walked into the entry, this was the first quilt you would have seen. You would have known then you're entering a quilter's home, because you're definitely going to see this. You couldn't spot it. And the amount of compliments I got from people, oh my God, that's beautiful, where did you buy that? You know, but this stayed on my wall for approximately 6 months. I tell you no lie. After Christmas, I tell you no lie, I love it so much that I was like, I'm not taking it down. I'm not taking it down. It's staying. I loved it so much. It's called Dog Sleigh, and I just loved it. So I actually added, you know, that border around it, and I added this one here as well. I did different quilting. I used red thread here. I used blue on this one. I used blue around the snow on the ground, and I did lines here for the dogs. You know, I just think it was so beautiful. I love on the Christmas tree. I did that back and forth quilting, and I used that Christmas green on it. So I put a lot of thought into quilting this to really bring it alive, and I think that's what you've got to do when you're using a panel. You just gotta border it, cut it, trim off what you don't want, and then add your own border to make it special to you, and just lift the profile. One thing I love is the tones of the blue and black around it. What made me add that, I really don't know, but it's just so gorgeous. I love this quilt, and this is one of my quilts that I put up every single year. This is not for sale. I have never really advertised it because I love it so much. This one will stay with me. It'll always be part of my Christmas decoration. Absolutely love this one. Look at all the happy little doggies. Beautiful. And you know what? I have such a wide imagination. I always transition myself into, I'm thinking, I'm like, who lives in the houses behind there? You know, what's in the present? That's what I'm thinking. You know, I really put myself into the picture. I know, I'm a bit crazy. But that's just me when it comes to my imagination. But I love this Christmas quilt. All right, let's move on to the next Christmas quilt now. All right, so this particular Christmas quilt is called Christmas Maze. I don't recall how much views this got. I really can't remember, nor the Dog Sleigh. I think the Dog Sleigh was probably 800 views, nothing much, you know. But it doesn't really matter, because at the end of the day is what matters to me, isn't it? But this is called Christmas Maze. This red fabric I had since I was in England. And when I saw it, I was like, you know what? It's time to bring it alive. This, I think, was made using half square triangles, and I was just playing around with it, and it's just called Christmas Maze. I don't recall how many numbers of views this actually got, but it's something completely different. Am I in love with it? I can't say no, I can't say yes. It's just a quilt. That's all it is to me. This one is just a quilt. You know, on the back, what did I do on the back? Let me show you the borders. On the borders, I did that candy cane around the borders, like finished with the Christmas green, or I did the same on the back. What did I do on the back of the Dog Sleigh? Or just an ordinary plain fabric. But yeah, And again, I use large meandering quilts for this one. But this was just a quilt for me. It was nothing that I was like, oh my god, it's amazing. I must admit though, calling it Christmas maze because it was a maze. I just made half square triangles using the strips, and that was it basically. And then I sort of played around. I will admit that I did mess around with it a long time before I decided that I wanted to use the Christmas maze. But I like it. It's suited for a child who wants to, like I say, you know, use a little car to drive around at Christmas, you know, to keep them busy. You know, they can pretend they're on a race track. And that's just how my imagination works. So a young child will probably enjoy a quilt such as this, just because the white represents a racetrack. But it's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. All right guys, so let's move on to the next Christmas quilt. All right, so this is my next Christmas quilt. Now this quilt, I think, only got about 1,000 views, and I was so surprised about that because this is the second time I've looked at this quilt. No, sorry, I keep saying that. This is the first time I've looked at a quilt since I have made it and put it away. As I said, I don't usually do that. I don't go opening the quilts and looking at them. But this is bloody gorgeous. I think it's almost 70 inches squared, this quilt. Oh my gosh, it's so beautiful. It's obviously made from a panel. So this here is the panel in the middle there. You can clearly see the panel. But then I made Christmas present blocks around the tree. And then I added some stars at the top, followed by the sashings there to separate it. I love this color. It is just so beautiful. Why is it I am only now looking at this quilt? This was made as a quilt as you go, and I can tell yet again because I can see the seam lines there and there. Okay, and there's one at the top there as well. The quilting, again, I use gold thread because it's Christmas. Come on. You know, there's lots of gold in the actual fabrics themselves. And I did not quilt the border. I left it unquilted because I just love the green lines there. It is just so beautiful. I'm going to put this on my bed for Christmas. This one, I haven't even listed it for sale. Probably I should put it up as Christmas is coming. But this is a bloody gorgeous quilt. Nice size as well to throw over your bed for Christmas, and it will be draped right to the end of the bed so you can see, you know, the Christmas tree. So I would probably drape this right in the middle to the end of the bed. That's how I would lay this out. But it's absolutely gorgeous. Look at the fabrics, guys. Those beautiful sparkly Christmas fabrics. And that gold quilting on the thread is just amazing. I love the fact that I put the presents at the side of the tree. Just looks so nice. So nice. Beautiful quilt. Beautiful quilt. That's why I was so surprised it didn't get much views. I couldn't understand why. That no one liked this quilt. This is a beautiful... Guys, tell me, am I overreacting? Or is this not a really beautiful Christmas quilt? Tell me what you think down below. Be honest with me. I can handle it. But yeah, it's just so gorgeous. Let's see what I put on the back. Oh, a beautiful Christmas green. Again, lovely. You can see all of the quilting again and those gold quilting on the back. Lovely quilt. Disappointed that it didn't get much views because I like when the videos get a lot of views because obviously it means that people are liking it and it's being shared and it's being viewed and people are trying the pattern. So, but very nice. Very, very nice. Very, very nice. Beautiful quilt. Beautiful Christmas greens. Beautiful Christmas quilt. All right, I've got two more to show you. All right, so this one is my Christmas ribbon quilt. I remembered it because I remember going into my local quilt store and I saw the ribbons. And I was like, oh, well, that's interesting. I wonder if you can use the ribbon to make a quilt. And yeah, I used the ribbons. The borders as well was ribbon. There, you know, and I thought, why not? Why not try it? Don't recall how many views this particularly got. And I used Christmas squares to frame the whole thing. I don't remember how I actually made it. Looking at it now, it looks a bit confusing. Guys, does that ever happen to you whereby you look at a quilting thinking, how did I make this? I forgot. Oh yes, I can see how I made it now. Yeah, the memory's back. Yeah. Love the quilting on it though. Did lots of quilting on this one. Beautiful feathers. I enjoyed making this one. This was an experimental quilt, but I think it worked. Be nice for, you know, a child's room, you know, just to hang in on the wall for Christmas, or to throw on the bed, or to sit on the floor just to chill out playing. But it's a nice one. It's definitely a nice one. And I must admit that because I used the Christmas ribbons, I thought it would have been like difficult and hard and tough, but no, it just feels really soft. And at the back, that is why I use a blankety texture. I can't remember now. Flannelette I use at the back. That is why. Beautiful and soft. That is why it feels so soft. So again, you see, it's what you use, isn't it, in your quilts that really makes it soft. And always remember, once a quilt washes, it gets even softer. This is just the start of it. Beautiful though, beautiful though. I've got one more to show to you. This is the last quilt that I made for 2023, but I've got one more Christmas quilt to show you that is my favorite Christmas quilt that I made for myself and I use every single Christmas. Let me show it to you. So this is my Christmas quilt that I use every year. I think I've made this 3 years ago, and every year since then I've put it on the bed at Christmas. This quilt measures 80 by 100, so it's mega size. I made this on my domestic sewing machine. I made this when I was in England, and I quilted it and made it with my brother sewing machine. I love this Christmas quilt. It was a quilt along. I think it didn't got much. No, tell a lie. The quilt along got views, a lot of views, but it was the end, the final showing of the quilt is what got probably, I think, 1,200 views, which I was very disappointed with, to be honest, because it's such a beautiful quilt. But then the reason why it got that amount of views, because that's probably what the amount of people that was actually following along at the time. But it's a beautiful quilt. It's so big for this bed, it is actually tucked in because this bed has this bar there. But yeah, I mean, lovely. What do you guys think? Tell me down below. I always love this Christmas star here. I always love the white, and it just came together so beautifully. Love this Christmas quilt. So it was one of those where you make all these Christmas, you know, the baubles, the Christmas homes or housings, the Christmas tree, you know, the stocking. It was one of those playful ones, you know, and yeah. And what was about? Oh yeah, Christmas presents as well. You can't see underneath there, but beautiful quilt. Beautiful quilt. Love the fabrics. Love the fabrics played together so beautifully. On the binding I did white, and the border, well, I think 2 borders was this beautiful Christmas fabric. Just looks so good, so good. But I loved it. Love. This is my Christmas quilt that I put on the bed, as I said, every single year, and it's just so gorgeous. So gorgeous. Really beautiful. Really beautiful. And at the back I did, I think it was a Christmas fabric as well. Yep, just as beautiful all over reindeer fabric. But this one is obviously for home, so not for selling or anything like that, but beautiful. Just wanted to share it with you so that you know, you kind of know what I put on my bed every Christmas. But absolutely gorgeous, really beautiful.
Don't leave me here high and dry.